Mohamed Salah has just posted one of the most calculated, most deliberate social media statements in recent Premier League history. And he did it 1 week before his final game for Liverpool Football Club. Let that sink in for a moment. This is not a player venting in the heat of the moment. This is not an emotional goodbye. This is a man who has spent 9 years at Anfield, who knows exactly how this club works, who understands the weight every word carries inside that dressing room, and he chose this moment, with 1 game left, with Champions League qualification hanging by a thread, to send a message that has shaken the entire football world. Salah said he wants Liverpool to go back to being the heavy metal attacking team that opponents fear. He said that identity needs to be recovered. He said it cannot be negotiable. And every single word of that statement was aimed directly at one person, Arne Slot. Now, the question every Liverpool supporter, every football analyst, and frankly, the club's own hierarchy must answer is this. Is Mohamed Salah exposing a problem that already existed? Or is he, in his final week, adding to the chaos that has already consumed this season? The situation at Anfield right now is not just about one man's farewell. It is about a club that won the Premier League title less than 13 months ago and is now in very real danger of missing out on Champions League football entirely. The consequences of that outcome stretch far beyond next Sunday. They reach into the transfer window, into manager contracts, into the soul of what Liverpool believe they are as a football club. Here is what is at stake right now, and I need you to understand the full picture. Liverpool have lost 12 Premier League games this season. 12. That has broken records this club never wanted to break. Their dressing room is reported to be divided. Their manager's future is uncertain. Their greatest player of the modern era is walking out the door in 7 days. Their most high-profile loan deal this season, Harvey Elliott at Aston Villa, has been a complete disaster. And the players who are supposed to carry this club into the next era are falling short of their own standards consistently. If Liverpool fail to qualify for the Champions League on the final day, the financial and sporting consequences will be enormous. The summer transfer plans that Slot and sporting director Richard Hughes have built will need to be revised. The players Liverpool are chasing, including names like Bradley Barcola and Barcola Olise, command fees in the tens of millions and even approaching £140 million. That kind of spending becomes almost impossible without Champions League revenue. This is not a quiet end of season. This is a club at a genuine crossroads. If you want deeper analysis on stories like this, the kind of analysis that goes beyond the headlines and looks at the real decisions being made inside the club, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. We break everything down here at Victor Liverpool Analyst. Every story, every angle, every implication. Now let us get into it. Let me take you through every layer of what is happening at Liverpool right now, starting with the moment that has everybody talking. Barcola to Liverpool. Let us see transfer room. Here is what the post says. According to journalist Alexis Bernard, Barcola is one of the players who could leave Paris Saint-Germain if a good offer comes in. Liverpool are ready to pay the price. And the player, who was keen to go to Liverpool in the summer of 2025, is even more tempted today. Now, here is what this really means. Liverpool are not just casually interested in Bradley Barcola. The fact that Liverpool are described as ready to pay the price, combined with the player himself being even more open to the move than he was a year ago, tells you this conversation is serious. This is not a random name being thrown around. This is a targeted pursuit of a player who fits exactly the profile Slot has publicly said Liverpool need: pace, direct running, and the ability to hurt teams in behind. Barcola at Paris Saint-Germain has shown all of those qualities at the highest level. But let me be clear, no deal has been agreed. No offer has been officially submitted. This remains a rumour at this stage. However, the direction of travel here is very clear. Sebastian Hoeneß as Slot's potential replacement. Wilson Cox LFC. Here is what the post says. Liverpool have long admired Sebastian Hoeneß and have monitored his progress at Stuttgart closely. He was a serious candidate to succeed Jurgen Klopp in 2024, but Arne Slot edged him out in a data-led process. Liverpool's hierarchy at the time preferred a more measured, possession-oriented approach, believing it would reduce the high injury risk associated with intense pressing systems. Should the club opt for a change in the dugout, Hoeneß would sit very high on their shortlist. The Liverpool dressing room would feel particularly comfortable with his high-intensity pressing style, an approach many still regard as their natural identity. Mohamed Salah's post confirms that. Over the next few days, Liverpool's senior hierarchy are expected to make a definitive call on Slot's future. Should he remain in post? Significant alterations are anticipated across both the coaching staff and the playing squad. Andoni Iraola and Julian Nagelsmann are also highly regarded within the club's recruitment thinking. Let me give you my honest take on this. This is the most significant piece of information in the entire Liverpool story right now. Think about what this is actually telling you. 2 years ago, Liverpool chose Slot over Hoeneß because they wanted a calmer, more possession-based system. They believed that style would be sustainable and would protect players from injury. Now, 2 years later, Mohamed Salah has publicly called for the return of high-intensity pressing football. And the man Liverpool passed over in favour of Slot, Sebastian Hoeneß, is reportedly back at the top of their list. That is not a coincidence. That is a club quietly admitting that the philosophy they chose may have been the wrong one for this squad. A decision on Slot's future is expected within days. And the fact that Areola and Nagelsmann are also in consideration tells you Liverpool are keeping their options wide open. Liverpool eyeing Barcola Olise. Matchday HQ. Here is what the Post says. Liverpool are prepared to submit an offer in the region of £140 million for Bayern Munich winger Barcola Olise this summer. Here is the part most people are missing. £140 million is an extraordinary number. And I want you to think about what that figure actually represents in the context of everything else happening at this club right now. Liverpool are potentially facing a summer without Champions League football. Their dressing room is divided, their manager's future is uncertain, and yet the ambition being discussed in the transfer market is at the very highest level. Now, this is a rumour. Nothing has been confirmed. No bid has been submitted. But the fact that a number of that size is being attached to Liverpool's name in connection with Olise tells you the club understands they cannot afford a quiet summer. They need a statement signing. Olise at £140 million would certainly be that. The question is whether the financial conditions will allow it. Dressing room divided, the touchline. Here is what the Post says. Liverpool's dressing room is genuinely divided. Tensions have reached a boiling point amid growing frustration with Arne Slot's work this season. The squad is deeply embarrassed after surpassing Rafa Benitez's record for most defeats in a single season, with several players believing a managerial change should already have been made. Slot remains confident he can win back the dressing room, but a number of senior figures are said to be deeply disappointed in him. Let me break this down for you. When you surpass a record for most defeats in a single season, and that record belongs to Rafa Benitez, a manager whose tenure at Liverpool ended under pressure and controversy, that is a deeply uncomfortable place for this football club to find itself. The embarrassment being described here is real, and when senior figures inside the dressing room are said to believe a managerial change should already have happened, that is not background noise. That is a genuine crisis of confidence in the manager from within his own squad. Slot saying he is confident he can win back the dressing room is the right thing to say publicly, but the evidence suggests the situation is far more fragile than those words imply. A manager cannot lead a team effectively when key players have already mentally moved on from him. Why Liverpool did not pursue Xabi Alonso? Wilson Cox, LFC, here is what the Post says. Another reason Liverpool did not enter the race to appoint Xabi Alonso was to do with his possession-based football being similar to current head coach Arne Slot's. On the data sheet, Arne Slot ranked higher in ball possession than Xabi Alonso. Here is my take on what is really going on. This is a fascinating detail that most people have glossed over. Everyone assumed Liverpool did not go for Xabi Alonso simply because he chose Chelsea. But the reality is more interesting than that. Liverpool apparently looked at the data and concluded that Alonso's style was too similar to Slot's to justify making a change. If you are going to replace a possession-based manager, you replace him with someone who does something meaningfully different, not someone who plays the same way but with a different accent. And that actually makes sense as a decision-making process. The problem is that it also confirms Liverpool knew they were evaluating alternatives to Slot, which means the conversations about his future have been happening for longer than anyone has publicly admitted. Media reaction to Salah's statement. Sky Sports News. Here is what the Post says. The Telegraph's Jason Burt says Mohamed Salah has thrown Arne Slot under the bus and has shown a lack of class. One pundit on the Sunday supplement suggested Slot should come out and say what he really thinks about Salah, and that he would drop him for the final day against Brentford. Here is how I see this. The media reaction to Salah's post has split into two very clear camps, and I think both camps are missing something important. Those who say Salah showed a lack of class are focusing on the timing and the public nature of the criticism, and they have a point. 1 week before the most important game of Liverpool's season is not the moment to publicly call out the manager's philosophy on social media. That is damaging, regardless of whether the underlying message is correct, but those who are fully defending Salah are ignoring the complexity of his own contribution to this difficult season. Here is what I will say. Gary Neville's grenade analogy is the most accurate description of what happened. Salah dropped something explosive and then walked away. The people left in the room have to deal with the consequences, and the most important game of the season is still to be played. Trent Alexander-Arnold liked Salah's post, Anfield edition. Here is what the post says. Trent Alexander-Arnold is yet another to have liked Mohamed Salah's post. And the question is being raised, would it have seemed mad a year ago to suggest Arne Slot influenced his decision to leave Anfield? Now, here is what you really need to understand. Trent Alexander-Arnold is at Real Madrid now. He has moved on. He has nothing to gain or lose from liking a social media post. And yet he chose to publicly engage with a statement that is widely seen as a direct criticism of Arne Slot's management of Liverpool. That is not nothing. When a player of Trent's stature, someone who grew up at Liverpool, who represented everything the club stood for under Klopp, makes that gesture from afar, it says something about how he feels about what happened at Anfield this season. I am not saying Slot drove Trent away. The facts do not support making that conclusion. But the fact that the question is now being asked seriously by serious football people tells you the Slot situation has become bigger than just this season's results. Gary Neville's reaction. Empire of the Cop. Here is what the post says. Gary Neville on Mohamed Salah's social media statement. He said Salah pulled the pin out of a grenade right in the middle of the room and is walking out of the room. Salah is not happy over there. It is not great. And if he was a Manchester United player, Neville says he would be fuming. Let me put this in plain terms for you. Gary Neville is a Manchester United legend. He has no love for Liverpool Football Club. So when Gary Neville looks at what Mohamed Salah has done and says it is not great, that tells you something. Because Neville is not defending Slot out of any loyalty to Liverpool. He is simply calling out behaviour that he recognises from his own career as unprofessional and damaging. Pulling the pin out of a grenade and walking out of the room is exactly the right way to describe it. Salah gets to fly off into his next adventure. The people who remain at Liverpool, the players, the staff, the manager, have to deal with the fallout. And they have to do it in 7 days in what may be the most important 90 minutes of this entire season. Chemistry, unity, and fighting spirit. The contrast could not be sharper. Mohamed Salah's statement, what he actually said and what it really means. On Saturday, Mohamed Salah posted on social media, and the content of that post was not random. It was structured, it was intentional, and it landed like a bomb inside the football world. Salah said he is proud of playing for Liverpool. He said he wants the club to succeed after he leaves next week. He said Liverpool should not be losing as many games as they have this season. 12 defeats in the Premier League alone. And then came the line that changed everything. He said Liverpool need to return to being the heavy metal attacking team that opponents fear. He said that identity needs to be recovered. He said it cannot be negotiable and that everyone who joins this club should adapt to it. Now here is what this really means. The term heavy metal football was made famous by Jurgen Klopp. It described his approach at Liverpool: high intensity, high pressing, relentless energy. Opponents were not just beaten, they were exhausted. Dominated physically and mentally from the first whistle to the last. Arne Slot's approach is different. Slot prefers a more measured, controlled, possession-based style. And while that approach delivered the Premier League title last season, a remarkable achievement in his first year in charge, this season it has not worked. The team has struggled. The results have been poor. And Salah, in his final week as a Liverpool player, has publicly said the club needs to go back to what Klopp built. Here is the part most people are missing. This was not an accident. This was a deliberate message from a player who feels something has been lost at this football club. And the timing, 1 week before his final game, means he will not be around to face the consequences of what he has said, but everyone else will. What makes it even more powerful is the reaction. Gary Neville described it as pulling the pin out of a grenade and walking out of the room. The Telegraph's Jason Burt said Salah threw Slot under the bus and showed a lack of class. And players inside the dressing room, including Curtis Jones, Milos Kerkez, Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai and Ibrahima Konate, were among those who liked the post. Even Trent Alexander-Arnold, now at Real Madrid, engaged with it from afar. But let me give you my honest take on this. The numbers around Salah's own contribution this season are complicated. 9 goals and 12 assists in 40 appearances is his worst ever return at Anfield. Liverpool have won 61% of games with Salah starting, compared to 35% without. But he also started 9 of the 12 Premier League defeats, and in the 12 consecutive games when Salah did not start, Liverpool were unbeaten. The situation is not black and white, and only the coming months will truly reveal how much of this season Salah was part of the solution and how much he was part of the problem. Arne Slot, a manager under pressure and a decision that is coming fast. Let me walk you through this step by step. Arne Slot is under serious pressure. Reports confirm that Liverpool's senior hierarchy are expected to make a definitive call on his future within the next few days. And the names being linked as potential replacements are significant. Sebastian Hoeneß is reportedly high on Liverpool's shortlist. He was passed over in favour of Slot 2 years ago because Liverpool preferred a possession-based approach. Now, the dressing room is said to be more comfortable with a high-intensity pressing style, and Hoeneß represents exactly that. Andoni Iraola and Julian Nagelsmann are also in consideration. Here is my take on what is really going on. Liverpool also looked at Xabi Alonso and decided his possession-based style was too similar to Slot's to justify making a change. That tells you the club is not just reacting emotionally to a bad season, they are thinking carefully about what kind of football they actually want to play next. And the direction the evidence points is clear. Liverpool want to move back toward intensity and pressing, which means whoever comes in next is likely to look much more like Jurgen Klopp than Arne Slot does. The dressing room situation makes all of this even more urgent. When senior players believe a managerial change should already have happened, the manager's authority is effectively compromised. Slot can say he is confident, but confidence alone does not rebuild trust once it has been broken at that level. Harvey Elliott, the loan that became a nightmare. Let me break this down for you clearly. Harvey Elliott joined Aston Villa on loan last summer. The deal included a £35 million obligation to buy, triggered only if Elliott played 10 or more Premier League appearances. He played just 4, one of which came after the end of September. Villa boss Unai Emery called the situation embarrassing for everyone involved, offered his personal apologies to Elliott, and acknowledged it has been difficult from a human perspective. Elliott will return to Liverpool this summer, still contracted, still a Liverpool player. Arne Slot confirmed that directly. Here is what you really need to understand. This situation is not just sad for Harvey Elliott personally, it is also a reflection of something broader that has gone wrong at Liverpool in terms of planning and decision-making. A 23-year-old academy product, a player who wrote one of the most emotional farewells in recent memory when he left for Villa, barely played a single game of consequence all season. His professionalism has been praised universally. Stuart Pearce said everyone at Villa has only positive things to say about his attitude. The failure here was not Elliott's. And now he returns to a club that is in chaos, facing an uncertain future, with 1 fewer year on his contract and very little match sharpness. RB Leipzig remain a possible destination, having previously agreed personal terms with the player before a late move to Villa materialised instead. With his reduced contract length and limited game time this season, Elliott could be available at a reduced fee, but his situation remains unresolved. And that is another problem Liverpool must solve this summer. The transfer plans, Barcola, Olise, and the scale of what Liverpool need. Here is how I see this. Liverpool need a transformative summer. Not a tinkering summer. Not a let us add 1 or 2 players and see how it goes summer. A genuinely transformative overhaul of the forward line and the squad's overall profile. Slot has been clear. Liverpool need pace and attack. The impact of 17-year-old Rio Ingamoha has already shown what genuine speed can do to change a game. But one young player cannot carry that responsibility alone next season. Bradley Barcola is being described as ready to leave Paris Saint-Germain if the right offer arrives. Liverpool are ready to pay. And Barcola is reportedly more tempted than ever. This is still a rumour. No deal is done. But the foundations are clearly being laid. Barcola Olise is being linked with a potential £140 million offer from Liverpool. Again, this is a rumour. No official bid has been submitted, but the scale of the number tells you everything about the level of investment Liverpool believe is required to fix this forward line. Here is the part most people are missing. Both of these potential signings, Barcola and Olise, are exactly the type of player who makes Slot's preferred system work better. But they are also the type of player who would thrive in a high-intensity pressing system under a manager like Hoeneß. Whoever ends up in the dugout next season, the transfer targets make sense. The key question is whether the financial conditions, primarily Champions League qualification, Allow Liverpool to actually complete this level of business. The bigger picture, what is really wrong at Liverpool? Let me put this in plain terms for you. Liverpool are facing a perfect storm, and every single element of that storm has arrived at the same time. Losing Klopp created a void that no single manager was ever going to fill. Slot deserves credit for winning the title in year one, but the problems hidden beneath that title win are now fully exposed. The recruitment has been inconsistent. The squad lacks depth in critical areas. The forward line has been devastated by injury. Salah is leaving. Elliott's loan was a failure. The fan base is losing patience. And the dressing room is divided. Fenway Sports Group also badly misread the mood of the supporters when they attempted to raise ticket prices before eventually backing back down. That damaged trust, and in a city like Liverpool, trust between the owners and the fans is not something you can afford to lose lightly. The reality for the club is that everything needs to improve simultaneously. The recruitment, the playing identity, the squad depth, the relationship with supporters, and the leadership, both on and off the pitch. That is an enormous amount of work to do in one summer. But it is the work that must be done. Because the alternative, another season like this one, is not something Liverpool Football Club can afford to experience again. What happens next? The final day and beyond. Here is what you really need to understand going into the final weekend of this Premier League season. Everything comes down to Liverpool hosting Brentford at Anfield. Champions League qualification is on the line. Salah will almost certainly play some part in that game. The atmosphere will be intense. The stakes could not be higher. If Liverpool win and secure their place in the Champions League, there will be relief, a proper send-off for Salah, and a platform from which to rebuild. If they fail, the consequences will be immediate and severe. Slot's position will be tested to its limit. The summer transfer plans will need to be fundamentally rethought. And the mood inside Anfield could become very hostile very quickly. Here is my honest take on where this all leads. The evidence suggests that significant change is coming at Liverpool regardless of the result on the final day. The manager's future is already being debated at the highest level. The squad needs major investment, the playing identity needs to be redefined, and the club needs a new figurehead in attack to fill the enormous void Salah will leave. The summer of 2026 is not just an important window for Liverpool, it is a defining moment in the modern history of this football club. The decisions made between now and the start of next season will echo for years. The question is whether Fenway Sports Group, Richard Hughes, and whoever is in the dugout next season are ready to make the right calls. The evidence of this season suggests the old answers are no longer working, and Liverpool can no longer afford to get this wrong. That is the full picture as it stands today at Liverpool Football Club. Salah's grenade, Slot's uncertain future, Elliott's wasted year, a dressing room divided, and a summer that will define everything. If you found this analysis valuable, please subscribe to Victor Liverpool Analyst and hit the notification bell. We cover every major development at Anfield with depth and clarity, bringing you the full picture every single time. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Slot should stay or go? Do you think Salah was right to say what he said? And who do you want Liverpool to sign this summer? Thank you for watching. We will see you for the next one.